welcome to Storytime with Chris. I have been looking forward to this episode for a long time, for at least, the last few months, since Nothing More announced their new album, Carnal, and today I will be doing a review of that album. For those of you who don't know, Nothing More is a rock band, a little bit of rock, metal, and they are one of my favorite bands ever. And today I'll be doing a review of their newest album, Carnal. This album has 15 tracks, and if you haven't listened to one of my reviews before, essentially what I do is I'll talk about each song individually, I'll give it a score, and then at the end, all the scores are added up and averaged out to give the album a final score. And yeah, let's just dive right into this thing. Track number 1 is an interlude. So Nothing More is one thing that they do that's pretty unique, is they have these interludes. Sometimes it's to start albums, sometimes it's between songs, and essentially they're not full-length songs. They're more like in between songs where they really they don't have a musical structure. It's more like, in this case it's an opener which leads to the first full-length song, and then they have other songs where they act as interludes. They bridge two songs together so that there's kind of a flow, and it's absolutely one of my favorite things about Nothing More because it makes their albums just flow together very smoothly. And so starting off with track number 1, Carnal. This is a solid opener. It's classic Nothing More they like to include Alan Watts' spoken word in these interludes, and this makes you feel like you're entering an experience. It's like you're in a 4D theater and you're about to fully feel the upcoming album. And for all these interludes, they automatically score a 7. I think that's fair because they are not full-length songs, so it kind of takes away a little bit from that aspect, but they're cool because they bridge songs together and they provide nice flow. And they include the spoken word with a lot of profound meaning usually, and I think it's cool. So 7 seems like a fair score to me. It's slightly below 7.5, so the more interludes there are, the more likely it is to drop the whole album score as a whole. But yeah, that's how I score those, and that one gets a 7. Track 2, House on Sand. This is a very high energy song. It makes you want to get up and go. I enjoy the anthemic message of starting again, after making mistakes like building a house on sand. I relate to the idea that you can be baptized, franchised, Americanized, but still feel a little bit crazy. Those are all considered to be good things generally. Like when you think of those things, it's in a positive regard, but sometimes they're not. The musicians in Nothing More are extremely talented, but Johnny Hawkins' vocals takes this band to the next level. This one is one of my favorite songs on the album, and it scores a 9.5. Track 3, If It Doesn't Hurt. This is a song about getting over heartbreak. I enjoy the message in this song. Love hurts sometimes, and that's not a bad thing. When someone you care about does something that upsets you, it hurts more than people you don't care about as much. However, if there is, constant pain and it gets to the point where it stops hurting or you feel numb because of it, that's when it's time to move on. Holding on to hope that person will change and stop hurting you sometimes is worse than the pain that they're inflicting. I think everyone at some point has experienced something like this, so it's very relatable. Another solid song. This one gets an 8. Track 4 is Angel Song. I thought it was interesting that the first 3 songs on this album were also the singles that they released. And when this one came out, I automatically added it to my workout playlist. It's very high energy, makes you want to get up and go. My only complaint about the song is that there weren't a lot of words said throughout. David Draymond from Disturbed was featured on this song, and I enjoyed the collaboration, but I wish they would have taken more advantage of it. I wish they would have used his voice even more. But overall, it was a fun song with great vocals, an epic guitar solo, but it did leave a little to be desired. This one gets an 8. Track 5 is Free Fall. This song is by far the most relatable to me. To me, it sounds like this song is about being your own biggest critic. A few lines that hit me hard. One step ahead, but I'm still behind where I thought I'd be by this time. It's hard to please, much less believe the screaming voice in my head. No matter how much I'm doing or how well I'm doing, I constantly feel like I need to do more or I could do better. And it's all internal. No one is telling me these things except the voice in my head, my inner critic. Whether it's being a better dad, husband, friend, father, son, or even with my personal interests like, my side hustles and business and stuff. I feel like I need to be better at all of it. That's where the free fall part comes in, it all adds up very quickly and it can get overwhelming. And then I tell myself that I can handle it, and all those things add up. I'm I think I can do it, and sometimes it starts to get out of control, and things start spinning and it feels like you're free falling. And that's where the chorus really hits me. Johnny talks about how you're scared to lose it all and you're feeling lonely, but it's hard because it's lonely only because you can't ask for help because it's on the inside. The only thing you really can do is let go. You have to sacrifice a little bit, sacrifice little parts of something so that you're not pressing too hard. Anyway, this review is getting a little bit longer, but I really felt this song, and it has been years since the song really hit me this hard, and that's why it gets a 9. Track 6 is Blame It on the Drugs. This song is sad, but so well done. The more I listen to it, the more I like it. This song is about someone who has a person they care about who intentionally hurts them, probably someone they loved. But the person being hurt has realized that even drugs wouldn't make someone want to hurt them intentionally if they really love them. They were in denial of it for a while, and now it just can't be an excuse. Slowly, this person has turned into a stranger, and the memories of them are just bad and cannot be fixed. Stranger blames everyone else, but is never accountable for their own actions. It's heartbreaking to know that people go through this in real life. I've never had to, and I hope no one ever has to. This might sound crazy, but the chorus was almost a little punk rock to me. The guitars and drums just kind of gave me that vibe. Johnny destroys the chorus. You can really feel the pain and anger in his voice. This might be my favorite vocal performance from Johnny on this album. It's powerful and well done. The guitars throughout the song are awesome. I actually didn't catch them until a few listens in, but they're in the background and provide some nice depth to the music. Even if this song is not one I relate to very much, it's going in my playlist and I'm playing it on repeat. This one gets an 8. Track 7 is called Head. This is another interlude, and it's another classic Nothing More interlude. The Alan Watts spoken word is always profound and makes you think a little bit deeper. Provides a little bit more context to the album and what's coming. And like I mentioned before, the interludes automatically get a 7. However, if for some reason the interlude is really good or really bad, then I'll adjust the score accordingly. But yeah, this one gets a 7, and it has a phenomenal transition to the next song. Track 8 is Existential Dread, and this song is exactly about that. It's about what modern day existential dread feels like. The instant gratification world that we live in is what will lead to our downfall. We have everything that we want or need right at our fingertips at all times, and we are raising our kids too as well. I mean, it's not intentional, but we're raising them to believe that they can have everything they want anytime they want it, and I think that can lead ultimately to unhappiness. This is going to create a culture where we'll be unhappy if we don't get what we want right when we want it, and that's not healthy. There used to be a time where you had to go to a store or you had to drive somewhere to get things that you want, and now when it comes to physical items, you can have them delivered to you to your house same day. You can do virtual hikes, or you can experience things in like VR and all sorts of things. And I think this can not only lead to laziness, but it's like you don't have to work for anything anymore. Even things like dating or relationships, it's all online, and eventually it might get to the point where you can have like an AI girlfriend, which is just crazy to think about. And I think that's what this song is about. I mean, everything is online, and it's gonna lead to our destruction. Musically, I think Nothing More really had their creative juices flowing for this one. This song is really unique to me, and especially on this album, it's different. It has a bunch of different sounds in it, from the verses to the choruses to the breakdown and the bridge. Every part of the song is unique and provides a fun experience. To me, musically, it's the best song on the album, and it gets an 8.0. Number 9 is another interlude. This one is called Heart, and this one is going to get a little bit of a higher score. This is almost like a full-length song. However, it is obviously an interlude. It has the Alan Watts spoken word. The music transitions from acoustic to eventually gets a little bit more powerful as the song goes along, and I think it's really cool. The whole song talks about how life is essentially a giant river, and there are some people who swim against the river, there are some people that go with it, and there are some people who figure out that in order to take full advantage of the river, you want to go along with it. And then there are other people who use sails, and they're essentially using magic. I enjoyed the profound nature of the interlude, and it makes you think about what kind of person are you? Are you going against the current, or are you with it? And this theme sets up the next song, which of course is called Down the River. Track 10, Down the River. This song is a perfect example of how these interludes can provide depth to a Nothing More album. The whole analogy that life is a river really comes to life. In this song, it's talking about how life keeps knocking you down and pushing you down the river, and eventually it can lead you to your grave. And the river, you can just let it carry you away. You can let it take you to the very end if you want to. However, the river, just like life, doesn't stop. It keeps going. And what you can do is take those doubts that you have and drown them in the river. Or you can let them go so that you can dream bigger and go after things that you want. I think that is what is very powerful about this song. Yes, you're in the river. Yes, things can happen in the river of life, but you can always leave those things behind. You can always outswim them. You can always move on because life moves on, and you can either choose to go with it or stay behind. This song also has a special place in my heart because it's about a river, and for anyone who doesn't know, we have our firstborn child who is about 4 months old. Her name is River. So anytime there's a song mentioning rivers or, the word river, it means a little bit more to me. Musically, this song is highly enjoyable. This is one that I can play on repeat time and time again. It's uplifting, it's energetic, it's encouraging. I mean, life isn't always, crazy heartbreaks and really bad things. Sometimes there are little inconveniences and little things that you still have to get over and choose to let go so that you can outswim them, or you can keep holding on to them and have them hold you back. The vocal performance from Johnny on this one is insane. I know I said Blame It on the Drugs had the best vocal performance on this album, but this one is very close behind. It's extremely powerful, and I felt every word. I enjoyed every little part of this song, including the bridge. That part of the song gave me goosebumps. The song has everything you can want. It's powerful. It's uplifting. It has great meaning behind it, and I think it can help people who may feel like they're drowning or falling behind. And I have to say that this song made me emotional and really hit me hard. This is my favorite song on the album, and it gets a 10. Track 11 is Give It Time, and this is another song that goes along with the same thing as before. It's encouraging, and it's all about getting back on your feet. The song talks about how life will knock you down. It'll take away a lot of things from you, but ultimately it will give you more than it takes. And sometimes you just need time to heal. I really enjoy this message because it's the classic idea that time heals everything. I truly believe that it does. It's all you need in order to pick yourself back up or get over something that happened, or even to find the courage to do something. One reason I like the song and the previous one a lot is the fact that these songs are so encouraging, and they both feel like songs that I can show to my daughter sometime in the future when things get hard for her. I mean, life at some point might beat her up a little bit. It happens to everyone at some point in their lives, and for me, music really helped me and got me through a lot of those things. And the fact that I can show her this song by one of my favorite bands ever means a lot to me. It's funny, these songs that are not necessarily considered heavy in the metal genre of music are kind of the heaviest. They're the hardest hitting. Anyway, this is another great song, and this one gets an 8.0. 12 Sight is another interlude. Man, I really enjoy these interludes that Nothing More does. It really gets me thinking, and sometimes gives me a new perspective on life, ideas, everything. I know they may not be for everyone, but I really enjoy them, and I think it makes me think about things more. If this one is no exception, and it actually helped me with a part of my personal belief. At least it gave me a new perspective on it. As I was growing up, I really got into religion. I was part of it since I was a kid, but when I was a teenager, I really got into it, and eventually I phased out and deconstructed my religious beliefs. Part of the reason for that is because when I was doing my own research, in my opinion, I don't want to upset anyone who may believe these things, but this is just my perspective, so don't let me sway you in any way. But it became apparent to me that while, yes, there may have been a Jesus who was crucified, it may not have been for the reasons that you find in religion. What I'm saying is that I believe there was a Jesus, and he may have been a religious figure and probably a really good person, but I don't necessarily believe this idea that he was handpicked by God. I've always tried to figure out what exactly he was trying to tell the people before he was crucified. And this interlude gave me this idea that I hadn't thought of before, that maybe he was preaching that we are all our own gods. And of course, that may have been seen as blasphemous and part of the reason why he suffered the fate that he did. That to me makes a lot of sense. And personally, I find that to be a little bit more believable than anything I've read before. And who would have thought that Nothing More would have given me that perspective. Anyway, that's enough about that. Let's get to the next song. This one gets 7. Song 13 is Stuck. Getting back into the heavy side of Nothing More. This song hits, and it hits hard. It's another song about overcoming obstacles and hardships and feeling stuck. I think we've all been at that point in our lives where we all feel like can't get past a certain point, or we plateau or whatever, and eventually you can get over that. It seems like in this song, the person that it's about is getting over a relationship that they had. Sometimes in relationships, not just romantic ones, you forget about yourself, and when you get out of that, you feel like you're taking back your time and you're getting closure from that relationship. That's what this is all about taking back your time, working on yourself. It's uplifting, it's heavy, it's a great song for the workout playlist. I've never listened to Sinister before, but I really enjoyed their vocals. They were aggressive and they fit the song really well. The hits just keep on coming. This song is no exception. It gets a 9. Now we're coming up on just a couple songs left, so I believe this is song 14, Run For Your Life. This one's a little bit strange. It has a completely different tone from the rest of the album. It's like it brings like a dreary, haunting feeling. It's almost like a warning. Going back to this idea that Nothing More's albums are experiences. It's almost like you're about to come face to face with a demon within this theater that you're sitting in. This album has a theme of overcoming things, and one of those things are inner demons and the river of life. Eventually, new ones will emerge, and old ones may catch up. Sometimes it's hard to distinguish between the good and the bad. Sometimes the bad ones get too close, and it's time to run for your life. Sometimes it's better to be asleep and dreaming, but the demons can follow you there as well. This is another enjoyable one, and it gets 7.5. And that brings us to the finale of this album. I thought it was interesting to have the interlude as a closing part of the album. At first, I didn't really like it, but after listening through this album a few times, I've grown pretty fond of it, actually. Spoken Word by Alan Watts is really talking about this idea of exploring your motivations, looking at yourself, and this idea that I mentioned before, that we're all our own gods. In this outro, he mentions that holy people are seen as scary because they have reconciled their opposites, and we don't know whether they're saints or devils because of that. I think the reason for that is those people have overcome everything that was opposing them, and that is scary to think about because you never think you're going to reach that level. You always think you're going to be, there's going to be something right behind you, and that ties in with the whole album, this theme that we can never get to this level of consciousness. It's in our carnal nature to have highs and lows, good and bad, demons and gods. This profound idea is a spectacular way to close out this Nothing More experience named Carnal. And that brings us to the final conclusion, the final album score for Carnal by Nothing More. And overall, it is an 8.03. For context, this album scored just below Spirits, which was 8.2. Overall, I really enjoyed this album, but it gets better after each listen through. My only complaints were that this album was pretty short, and there were quite a few interludes compared to songs. Out of the 15 songs on this track list, 5 of them were interludes, so there were only 10 full-length songs. That does hurt the average a little bit because the interludes automatically get a 7, but I did give one of them a 7.5. Overall, Nothing More delivered. As always, this is the reason why they're one of my favorite bands, if not my favorite band right now. They always bring such a unique, creative, thoughtful, profound energy on each album, and they are a band that I love sharing with other people. If you have never listened to them before, I highly recommend you do. They know how to deliver, and I think they have something for everyone, for any music lover out there. So that concludes this album review. Let me know what you think of the album below. Have you listened to it? Have you listened to Nothing More before? This episode is dedicated to Nothing More, so share all your thoughts and opinions on this album, Nothing More. Let me know what some of your favorite songs by this band are. I'll give you a few just off the top of my head. Fade In, Fade Out, Spirits, God Went North is incredibly powerful. What else? What other ones are there? I'm blanking. Don't Stop is a good one, but yeah, that's gonna do it for this episode, for this album review. Thanks again for tuning in. If you haven't yet, please like the video or follow me on YouTube and Spotify. Those are the 2 platforms that I am currently on, and thank you for taking the time to hear me out. If you haven't yet, go check out the album. I will link a Spotify link for the album down below so you can just easily get to it. Anyway, thanks again. This has been Storytime with Chris.